All right, guys, let's see what they say today. Let me know if you guys can hear me, if the volume and everything is good. Hopefully, some of you guys filled out the questionnaire. So I'm sure most of the questions are going to be the same. Is the contract going to become immutable, which it sounds like it is? What are they doing with Furbot and the lock updates? How much liquidity do we have? All this type of stuff. So um, I think there's probably 5 or 6 questions that I think are super important, and a lot of them is just what's the outlook going forward? What are we gonna be looking at in 3, 4, 5 months with Furio? Still going to be a project that's going to be doing well, even if the price is $1, 50, or is this thing gonna go downhill? So let's see. I do have high hopes for it, though. I have been talking to one of the developers, who's awesome, and he's been giving me a lot of good feedback on some stuff they're working on. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, but I'm really interested to hear it directly from the full team today. Let's throw this up. Once this gets kicked off, I'll make sure that you guys can hear the volume of them real quick, and then I'll probably just mute my mic and we'll sit back and listen to this thing together. You can ask as many any questions as you want in the chat. Yeah, Frackin' Famous is going to be leading the voice chat. Super good guy. So hopefully he asked all the questions that got submitted, some tough ones, and we'll get the answers that we want. Frackin isn't going to answer the questions. He's going to ask the questions. He's the moderator. So he's going to take everything that was submitted on the list. They're going to sort it down to, you know, reducing any duplicates, and then he'll be asking the questions to the team. So he's moderating. He's not answering the dev questions. I assume it'll probably be the 2 Chris's. So Chris Duran and I think it's Chris Davies. I don't know, the 2 Chris's. Looks like we got a good amount of people in here. Here we go. Obviously, I'm muted. Once they start talking, if you guys wouldn't mind dropping dropping in the chat whether you can hear them clearly or not. I just want to make sure the audio is coming through fine from Telegram and that my computer's picking it up. But there may be an echo, so I might have to mute my mic while you guys are listening, or while we're listening to the full AMA.
Sorry about that. You hear me now?
All right, let me know if you guys can hear this. Let me know if the volume needs to go up or down once they start talking. I'm happy to do that.
You say yes, Chris? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, no problem at all.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, I don't know if you could hear me before or not, but looks like there's still a decent amount of people coming in here. So you want to give it another couple seconds, you think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Fine with me.
All right. We'll give it another minute or two. Yeah, we got plenty of questions, guys. So thanks for submitting all those, and pretty positive here. I was pretty proud of the questions for sure.
Looking forward to hearing them.
Give it till I'm gonna go to 11:05 my time, and we'll go ahead and fire it up from there.
people have said, well, why not come out and talk? If we come out to the community and say, hey guys, currently the LMS is trading at 80, 90,000 a day, everyone slow down a bit, please. The only thing that had happened is the drain had gone even faster. So we knew that at the rate it was going, the project wouldn't achieve our end goal, which is sustainability. It was a case of how quickly it was going to last. So we looked at all the options and thought, right, okay. And that's where the changes were implemented. It's for sustainability, it's for the long-term benefit of the project, and for all the investors and people who are in there, because we'd seen what happened first time around when the price actually went to $20 and all the excitement around Cryptozoa. And we were actually talking internally thinking, this isn't really the best thing for the project. We don't want it ballooning because it's just going to become exit liquidity for people. The beauty this time around is that we've got the war chest, call it what you will, with the LMS building funds up. And taking the price down to where it went. If it had gone in a stopped fashion, it had been, oh, we're making changes, it's changing again. We just thought we just need to go straight to end goal for sustainability. So that's what we did. We knew that it was going to cause some ructions because a lot of mindset is driven around price rather than actually looking at, well, return on investment, ability to get a return, long-term sustainability. And in the same way, we spent the last a week now since the changes were made, actually looking at it and knowing at a time now when people have had a chance to look at it in the cold light of day, it's when we can actually have a more objective discussion.
Makes sense. So did you have a ratio in mind, regardless of price or anything like that? Did you have a set of numbers that you were looking at? Is that the reason for the the price you picked? Did that line up at all with something that was planned or?
Yeah, because it's all about any project like this. If you want long-term sustainability, to use the old accounting cliche, it's about balancing the books. If your inputs and your outputs don't stack up, then you're always going to hit a problem. We've always wanted, as we've made it absolutely clear, outside sources of income to back the project and support it. And I know it's a separate topic in its own right that's going to come up, and that is the trading bot. But on the returns that will give over a 12-month period, where the 100% factor, we've always advertised prudently 8 to 10% a month, that's going to throw in, 2 million into the pot as well. So you start looking at that with the LMS and income streams plus other lines of external income that we're going to have. That's what we've looked at. We've not just plucked a figure out the air and thought, yeah, that'll do. It's a case of taking a view to, right, okay, the economy is going to take a kick in, the global economy over the months ahead. We're still out at the bottom. Anyone's talk about when is the bull run going to happen and that, you can't legislate for it being a big turnaround in a short period of time. So we've taken a view of sustainability and balancing the books well deep into next year and beyond from there.
That number that you guys gave an amount of runway that was calculated before the drop. Was that all inclusive of all the USDC? Did that include returning the Furbot LMS fund to the liquidity? You know what I mean? Like when you were given that the runway that we had to take action.
Yeah, I mean, there was two ways of doing it. The other thing you've got to remember now, and again, Chris will cover it in a bit, is about the return from the trading bot. As I put in the medium last night, the trading bot is not under desperate pressure. If you actually look at what the LMS has drained over the last week, if it carried on at this rate, it's a long time before we're going to hit the 750K barrier, a long time out. And that's then before we'd have to have anything coming out of the trading bot funds. And we've said that we would, if it hit 750, we'd top it straight back up to $1 million. It has time to deliver and perform. The project is not under pressure. That is the key thing. It's about looking at and balancing the books, doing the analysis, looking at the months ahead, and rather than we were talking previously about 80,000 drain, the project had a very short lifespan. Now it's got a long lifespan, and that's before Furio Finance, before anything else kicks in, before sentiment from the community. I genuinely believe when people take a step back and look at what we've got now with the mechanics.
I think you might have a second, Chris, unless that's me.
So the phrase I've used is the tide turning, and we're seeing it. People are actually looking at the project now, not in context of what changes are being made, and we know it's been rough, but looking at the project in context of where does it stand now, what are the mechanics. Actually, fuel pool is a pretty amazing component part, and saying, if I looked at now and invested, I believe in this project. So yeah, with all those factors in play, we're pretty excited for the long term.
Mm-hmm. I think we got a little bit off on what I was getting at, and it's probably my asking of the question. When we said 31 days of runway at the drain we were going at, when the change was made, we were including all the USDC available, including the Furbot pool, correct?
Yeah, we were.
Okay, cool. That's what I was getting at there with that one for the moment. All right, so now that we have that, that dollar price that we're at right now, or the 90 to 110 price, and we go immutable, what does that mean? What does that mean for the price? So we're locked at $1 forever, or we're locked at a maximum of $1.10?
Nope, we are. What we in the LMS, there's only, if you look at present, there's only so much USDC and there's only so much Fuel token. So the reality is, once that the LMS can only support when it's actually got resources within it. If those resources go at either end, i.e., if, for example, all the USDC went, then the price goes totally back to just the pancake swap LP, and that then dictates the price, and it goes down from there. In the same way, if all the fuel went, then the price will start to go up outside of the LMS bracket, and the LMS bracket would only kick back in again when you come down. Dapper Don's just put a video out, and he goes through it very well, just does a little doodle, a little diagram, and that shows the mechanic. But yes, the price can go outside of the LMS zone once it's immutable. Okay, so before there was some firm minted, that was as a placeholder for the LMS to be able to collect the liquidity, correct? So it's not going to mint FUR on the upper end automatically to keep that price in the range. That facility is gone now. Once it's immutable, the ability to mint any more fuel for LMS purposes will be gone. That's the end of it. So, so the only way would be the tax purposes at the other end would be the only reason. Yeah, correct. So it's literally the minute it steps outside of the LMS bracket, its market forces take it wherever it goes. Okay, thank you. Why is there a range? Why do we have a range? Why don't we peg it at $1.10? If you peg it, then the LMS becomes almost effectively there's less point to the LMS, isn't there? I mean, right. So between that range and that free market, what's it doing? It's collecting tokens one way or the other, right? So if you squish it to nothing, it's just not there, right? If you peg it. Yeah, it squishes. What?
The one thing to make a note of there is if you were to implement an LMS into that kind of strategic measure, you'd have to be, would be expecting the LMS is actually utilizing liquidity to actually peg the price at a stable price. And what you would end up doing is then pegging this stable coin, say, for example, $1, and you'd start to use the liquidity to create the situation where it's pegged, what you end up having is a liquidity that starts to go down, and a price that's supporting a higher price than it should be at that liquidity level.
So then
Whereas
we're gonna
with the
experience
range,
volatility, right? Like crazy volatility.
exactly, because the price would be, say for example, you started million liquidity at $2, and you're now using the liquidity to peg the price to an LMS kind of system, and you're at $1, then you're at $500,000 liquidity, but you're still at $1. You can start to see how that would completely imbalance itself. Whereas the range is allowing it to go up and to be sort, so that's why you wouldn't put an LMS into a peg situation based off of liquidity reserve.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. I guess I think that kind of covers the LMS portion of it. I think we could probably go ahead and move over into well, I guess this kind of comes along as a why decision or a why question. Why the automatic withdrawals into Furpool, or not withdrawals, but deposits on selling of Fur.
Yeah. Go on, sorry, Chris.
Sorry, I was breaking up on my side. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Why the forced deposits into the Fur pool upon the sale of Fur?
So obviously, as we've gone through before, the sustainable metrics of the protocol, it's kind of given back to the hand that's feeding you kind of scenario, where by supporting the protocol on the way out, you're adding to liquidity of the protocol, and it makes for a much more sustainable metric when you're given the option to compound exponential growth, and on the way out, you're given a handshake on the way out by supporting the protocol for giving you that growth in the first place. It makes for much more sustainable metrics in general. I mean, that's certainly clear to everybody, I would imagine, involved.
Right, and then that kind of takes the place of selling Fur and that type of thing, because I don't think people realize that even though it's an LP, on the way out you're pulling out USDC. So essentially, you're getting your money out of the system at the end, all in USDC.
Yeah, so only taking the USDC portion and adding Furio. So by coming out in that way, you're adding, obviously the system is automatically adding the LPs for you in Furio pool. So those obviously don't understand that when you go into Furio pool, the system automatically, you put $10 in, it'll automatically create the Furio USDC LP for you. And then on the withdrawal, it then turns that LP back into USDC. So it's buying a portion, when you're selling your Furio, it's actually buying into the LP on the way out, which then goes into the Furio pool system. So it's a liquidity supporting metric. And as we said before, actual liquidity provisioning is something that we can do after we reach the stage. And that's the crux of what we want. We want sustainability in price, but we also, the LP provisioning is something that is really important to support as well. And by attacking that in multiple approaches, then we get a hardened price floor.
Okay, so there's a chance for that to support the price floor on the way up. And if we would escape that LMS range, then that's just going to make the floor that much more sustainable. Is that what you're saying?
This is the key thing, because obviously everyone knows that once you go immutable, there's a lot of the community that like the idea of once it goes immutable, it's the communities, right? So the community have the ability to be able to take the price to wherever they want to if they take out that Furio roof. So by having the protocol that's supporting liquidity on people's way out, you're constantly adding to that, regardless of what's going on. And as the price appreciates, you're obviously getting more dollar value to be able to sell into that LP to give more LP provisioning. So it gives a more solid state. As he said, as the price rises, the cells are going to continue to add to the liquidity in the process at the same time.
Okay. So why the choice of the 30-day stake? And is there any ways to change that one way or the other? Say you were on a I'll ask the first question. I'll get that out of the way first. Why the choice of the stake, I guess?
I think one important consideration is the fact that if people do the maths and the analysis, they'll soon realise that Your pool is paying approximately, it's just under 0.5% a day over 102 days since it's been going. So the reality is, your first so many days, your first 20 days or so, you're actually going to earn back what your tax is in the first place. So you want to be in for a period in for your pool to actually benefit and get a return out of it. One interesting thing that people are overlooking is going back to your previous question is fuel pool's indefinite. So at the end of the day, if you max out with your 100,000, your fuel pool stake can keep going and you don't pay anything on the claims on a daily basis on exit tax. So it's a different dynamic to look at. The 30 days is again, as though Chris was just saying, is to give it sustainability. And if you take a step back, like I've just said, you really want to be in for a while to get your tax-free daily withdrawal and to make sure you've recovered what you've deposited in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And so if someone got into Furpool, if say I have a 90-day stake already in that wallet, and then I sell Fur now, I'm still in a 90-day stake. Is what's is there a reason that I can't change that as it comes out?
Yeah, because you've basically been enjoying the rewards at 90 days. People can't have it every which way. If you're getting the rewards and you're getting boosted stake for being in for a period of time, that's the factor. If someone's been accruing the rewards at that rate and they're very attractive at present, then so be it. You can't just keep chopping and changing.
Right. So, but there's a reason for that, right? You can't get out of that reward rate without eliminating the stake, correct? So you would have to. It has to be weighted out, and because it doesn't, you still get that boost even after it's unlocked, correct? I guess
that's correct. Yeah. Well, once the 90 days is up, so long as you don't put another amount in, you will keep getting that 90 days boost indefinitely. So if someone, for example, reaches the end of their max payout, blah blah blah, leaves their fuel pool amount there, it'll just keep happily earning away at that rate. Mm-hmm. Even if you compound, you don't lose that stake rate either. It's only if you add more funds or withdraw.
Mm-hmm. Didn't you just add a couple of benefits for someone that wants to run their fur pool clear to the 100,000 max claims? You added a couple more options, correct?
Well, we've added longer. The longer stake boosts were added prior. Up to I think it's 120 and 150 days have been added in as well now. So again, when it's a case of stepping back, doing the maths, working out what your deposit is, what your exit is, and again, there's options so people can choose what's best for them.
Awesome, thank you. I think I covered most of the fur pool questions on that. Obviously, you guys, a lot of the questions overlap, so I didn't make a hard list because I want to kind of want to see how it goes and make sure that I'm answering or asking the right questions depending on how the answers come. So with Furmax, as it stands, I've had questions. Do half of your fur that you get that's not going back into the system automatically, is when you sell that, what happens there?
Furmax hasn't changed in any way, shape, or form. Okay. It's basically exactly as it was previously. You get half the fuel and the other half goes off into your choice of option. Being realistic at present, with Furbot on hold, if you were in Furmax, you'd probably go between the Furbot option or the fuel pool option. Obviously, we're going to reassess it just to make sure how it fits in with the immutability that we're going to be introducing, but nothing has changed whatsoever with Furmax at all. It's exactly as it was previously, exactly as all the articles were, and it distributes on exactly the same basis.
Okay, you did touch on what I was going to ask next. It is on the table as to the validity or the usability, I guess, of Furmax upon making the contract immutable?
Yeah, I mean, we're having to go through, as we said, and take the time to make sure how everything fits, because once you go immutable, there's no way back. So we're just double and treble checking on every single point. As we've said, we've spoken to the fast lead team because they're asking them guys how they see things moving forward. Furmax. So there's just a couple of little points that we are assessing to make sure that Immutability will deal with it effectively.
Okay. And so the lion's share of, minus what was happening with the fast teams of the dev fees that were currently coming into the Gnosis wallet from the ROI DApp are going to be diverted to the LMS?
Correct. Complete diversion to the LMS.
All right.
I think one other point I would like to pick up on, I know there's been some comment about us, whether we've been in, since these changes are going on, about being in the group and all the rest of it. I mean, we've had to consider every single eventuality. That's why we've been quiet whilst we've been working through and dealing with absolutely everything. It's, any accusation that we don't care about it, I find, I think it's ridiculous, because if we didn't care, we wouldn't have put the amount of effort in that we've done to try and stabilise the project. The time and effort that went into making sure that there wasn't any impermanent loss in fuel pool, it's been an immense task on our side. I think some of the abuse has been just ridiculous and unfounded, but that's by the by. We accept the fact that emotions were high, but it's certainly not been a case of we don't care and we're indifferent to the project. We've just been working flat out, and as we said previously, trying to do an AMA before this point to go through things objectively, while people are talking with high emotion, wouldn't have been, particularly constructive. So we're still here, we're still in front of the community, and we're as bothered as we ever have been. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing all of this.
Okay. Well, I think I kind of know the answer to this one, but we are making a more conscious effort to, to have communication directly with the team through myself, and I can speak with personal experience. I think we didn't expect. I guess we didn't expect the backlash, maybe to that extent. Not that we didn't expect their emotions running high and whatnot, but I mean, you do take that a little bit to heart on a personal level. That thinking that everybody's feeling that way, and I feel that we've kind of proven along the way that that we're not going anywhere and that we are looking out. But I think just hearing that again, from everyone, I think does help. So.
No, so we're still here. We're still as committed to the project as ever, and we're looking forward to the months ahead.
All right. I think we've got pretty much through, everything except for the. Let's see here. Yeah, I think we've got the majority of what we wanted to get covered. So we did. One thing I wanted to say too is that we do look at every, even though it might not be apparent, like you said, that everything's being listened to. I think it's a good point to make that every kind of opinion, suggestion, really a lot of the comments out there are heard and heard by the entire development team, not just not just the people that are watching. I don't think people realize that you guys do watch some of the chats and stuff like that. Not that you could read everything, but there is at least one of us that sees pretty much everything that comes through, and we do see every email and take the suggestions through the admins and all that. So just say that it's all being considered. It's not just a closed door. This is our thought on how it's going to be, and that's it.
No, well, we picked up on everyone was saying that it'd be a good idea to put the 1,000, to realign the limit, the maximum deposit, in line with the price. And that was something that was jumped on and dealt with immediately, because it's a very valid point. So and it's more critical than ever now. There won't be any major sweeping changes. We've said that. Immutability was always the end goal, and that will be happening sooner rather than later.
Okay, touching on that, I don't know if this one's specifically on the questions, but I've heard it myself several times. What about the proponents of not going immutable now, which to me actually was very surprising that anybody was saying that based on the the feedback that we've gotten. Are we still maintaining any controls as far as we'll still be able to to inject money into the system or add in other streams of income, correct? And Purple is not included in the it's the ROI DAP itself that's being renounced, right?
Yes, the ROI DAP, and we will still retain the capability to send USDC into the LMS.
Okay.
The one thing we will not be able to do is inject, obviously, any Furio into the LMS because we won't have the capability to do that anymore. The only thing that will be able to be injected and support is USDC into the LMS.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've noticed, like you say, that some people are now saying, oh, perhaps it might not be a bad idea to have a hand on the steering wheel, but we think with all that's gone on, and it was always the long-term objective, that this will then be this part of the Furio ecosystem closed and let the community take charge of it, and then we can focus on, we'll keep a watching brief, obviously, but then we can focus on the other components of the ecosystem. Okay.
One other one, and I did get maybe just a little bit off the track with this one. I apologize for it. I'll get better. So now I got to read it again because I forgot what I was going to say. As far as anyone that got affected by this, by this drop, was it thought of, or was there any way? I mean, is there any way to fairly compensate anybody, or would there have been had we, taken a different option? Or I mean, I'll let you answer that, but it's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, some people were asking, why did we not just, pay out a certain percentage of FUR to, people that had already invested, or how do you make a cutoff line or anything like that? And I think personally that was made clear by the fact that it's just the cutoff is when the changes are made, because we weren't. It's not like we were planning it. It was a decision that had to be made, not like it was something that was coming, I guess.
It was a decision that was made for sustainability. And the fact of the matter is, if we hadn't made that decision, people have still got the opportunity, as I've said previously, if you take a step back and look at the project now in the cold light of day, you look at it and realise with the mechanics, with everything that's built in, it's got sustainability, it will give a return. It's no longer a capped return because you can leave your money in Fuel Pool at the end and that will keep paying and paying and paying. So it's got longevity, and people will have the opportunity that they wouldn't have had if we just let it carry on. And we had to make a conscious decision to have a cut-off point, and like I say, it's as simple as that. To go and try and refund and do this, that, and the other, people will get the opportunity. And it's the also a loss is only ever a loss when you materialise it.
Right. So what's my speaking on Purple one more time since you've mentioned this. So if I build up my income in Purple and I'm compounding, and then I want to start taking rewards, I see that daily reward in there. What kind of taxes am I paying if I want to take that USDC off my daily?
None.
Okay.
There's no tax on a daily basis. There is, if you claim the USDC, there is no tax.
Okay.
So that's why building up a long-term stream, you effectively build your return on your return, and there's no withdrawal tax on it. So it's something that people really need to try and factor into. And I know the model's changed, so people need to realign what works for them. But it's it's a very powerful and effective tool.
Mhm. Okay, well, I think we all know where we're going and what everybody's waiting for. Why are we keeping money in the LMS bot, considering it hasn't made any profits, as you said, on paper yet? And what's the thought process there?
Short-term, it's just short-term viewpoints. Unfortunately, automated trading was as simple as deploying and making monthly profits month in, month out, then everybody would have the mindset to be able to deal with that quite easily and would be able to realize gains. So as I said before, one of the key things with trading is being able to keep emotions in check and being able to go through the turbulent times and the good times. Mind flips from one side to the other very quickly, and you can become very buoyant in bullish times, and in negative times people want to quit quicker than obviously when they're in the good times. And we've had a lot of people obviously get in touch with grid systems and all these other systems. The key metric is that we've had probably 3 systems that have been sent to us over the last few weeks, and one of which was up heavily percentage-wise, which in a very small amount of time, which is concerning when you see that, because it ultimately tends to lead to a blow up of some description, which has happened on numerous occasions over the years, whether it be grids, whether it be martingales. I'm not obviously saying that people don't make profits with these systems, but ultimately the experience and history we've seen with them is that they make insane gains for a period of time, and then it's not a case of those gains diminishing. It's actually the fact that the account completely gets blown up in a matter of no time whatsoever. Because the notion and the way that these things are making gains is always brinkering on 1 trade or 2 trades being able to destroy huge amounts of the capital. And you have to have objectively look at the way that the performance goes over a 12-month period. So what you have is you have the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The right-hand side is manual trading. The left-hand side is automated trading. You've got the pros and cons on either side. The pros of automated trading are unlimited access to the market. If you're a manual trader and your working hours are, say, 9 a.m. till 6 p.m., there's many trades you're going to miss, obviously, and opportunities because you're sleeping. And also, in turn, you may not be wanting to be set at a computer 9 till 6, right? So you can look at your own manual strategy and look through it, and you'll see many, many opportunities. It might be that the opportunity came at 7 a.m., but you start at 9 a.m., you've missed that opportunity. What does come with manual trading is a higher strike rate or a higher win rate. But over the course of 12 months, your percentage APR might not be that high. The flip side is that with automated trading, you get into the market 24/7, but your strike rate, your win rate will not be as high, but your risk reward ratios as part of the strategy, like with ours, the wins are bigger than the losses. So over time, you start to win more than you lose. But this is a metric that is important to understand, is time. It takes time for these things to happen, and judging something on 7-8 weeks is just an input. You can't, if you were to apply a strategy and do say, for example, backtest a strategy that you thought was going to be useful, you wouldn't look at it over the last 8 weeks, because you know for a fact that's not going to give you an objective view on how that performance is going to go. You'd look at 12 to 24 months minimum, right? So with that said, our strike rates of some of the bots in there are 50% plus. Now, 50% plus means that they win 1 in 2 trades. They take partials along the way, and they're a bit of an easier ride. They will get this up to like the 80-90% plus kind of level. But we also have scalping systems within that, which are particularly low win rate, therefore around 35%. Now, currently one of them is at around 20%. So we know for a fact that it's currently under its 12-month average of performance level, because it's currently below its strike rate. But then obviously the kick of wins in the next, say, 12 weeks would start to get that 20% up to the average that it needs to be at, which is what it normally is at. So you have to take the rough with the smooth with automated trading. The point of automated trading is that you don't get emotionally attached to the system, and you allow it to do its thing over the course of a long period of time and enjoy the gains over 3, 6, 12, whatever month period that you get. That you can't turn around and say, right, we're going to have 25% by 8 weeks, or we're going to have 30% at 6 months, or whatever it be. The systems that we've got will make and have made those percentages gains even before we deployed them. The back testing before that even matches up with what we've achieved with them. but it's all about being able to deal with the nature of the fact that you've got to see the longer term performance. So what you've got to understand is the current situation is that one of the short time frame bots is very, very active. And so as much as it can make some big, massive wins, it could also go through periods of loss. So that's basically the way you have to look at it. And this isn't a bot that's blowing up huge amounts of money in every trade, and everyone can see that. And when the wins are coming through, they are a lot bigger. It's just that we've not had the best of starts. An example being the 2 weeks before we deployed the LMS was a 15% win over the 2 weeks previous to that. So had we have had that, we'd be around break even or slightly in profit right now. So it's also, like we said before, it's when you land on the conveyor belt as well. And this applies if you're trading bots with prop firms or whatever it be. It might be that you're not passing the test the first time, but you've got a system that will make those gains, and it might take 2 or 3 attempts for you to get past that line, and then you're obviously off to the races and you're going to continue to enjoy profits. So what you have to do, as I said before, if we were to manually trade this, the win rate would be a lot higher, but the percentage gains over the course of the year certainly wouldn't be as high, because we can't access the markets 24/7 like the automated systems can. So obviously we completely understand people seeing the drawdown that it is currently going through. And obviously we don't like the community to see that either, but at the same time, through being transparent with the system, we took that kind of risk that the community were going to be able to see the process of getting to the percentage gains in the longer term. So it's more having a longer term view. And when I say longer term view, I really mean 6 to 12 months, because, automated trading just isn't going to give you the golden ticket overnight. It's a longer time frame situation. There's other deployments that we could have done. We could have just gone for longer term time frames and maybe got, I don't know, it would have been, say, about 70 to 90% APR of the year. There's something we could take into consideration, but that's a purely mindset decision, because people would be able to see that, the 50% taking profits and things like that, those do. The highest strike rate systems at 50% plus.
So it would have made the chart prettier, but we wouldn't have made as much money over the course of the year.
That's exactly it. Sorry, my earphones are just disconnected.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd end up with a lower heart rate situation, but lower profits. We're in an arena which kind of drives itself for higher profits, and it's like anything. If you want to achieve the higher profits, you have to take the rough with the smooth on the journey to get there. So,
and didn't you also pick a middle of the road strategy as far as your personal tolerance? You personally would have taken a little bit more of a risk on the look of the chart and been able to even pull in a little more, right? But then that would be even more, shocking, I guess, of a chart to look at.
how do you mean? Sorry.
Oh, I'm saying that you were telling you could get a little more profit out of this system, but it would look even, you know what I mean? You would see even more volatility than what you do now. But what I'm saying is you didn't pick the lowest route or the highest route. You went with kind of a middle of the road of where that we're going to make good profit, but not make it too scary at the same time.
Yeah, it's basically a balancing act. You've got the mid and longer term strategies, which are the steady go. You probably not have to look at the system at all for weeks on end because of the strike rate being where it is. But what you do is you kind of balance it. Having a shorter term time frame one, which basically adds another 50% of what the other two do combined to the APR of the year. And it could be that the two midterm ones are in great profit and the other one's pulling it down. It could be a flip round and the other one's making a big profit whilst the other one's going to draw down. It gives a bit of a mix and balance to everything. It's just the lower time frame is very active and has had a little bit of a bad time recently. But this particular one can smash a 5-6% trade out in one day. What with the markets, as everyone knows, what you've got to understand with the way that these systems trade is, whichever time frame they work on, is that the stop losses are always there. So we don't, all these other systems are making insane gains all the time, unless you've got something that's high frequency trading, doing hundreds of trades a day. these are capping in losses, but the winners are not capped. So once something goes into a trend, 70% of the time you'll have a sideways market, 30% trending. When these go into trends, these particular asset bets, that's when these bots start to make more money because they're in the trend and they follow along with the trend. So with the bot, the small time frame one, for example, if the markets have just been very, very sideways, then it might pack in like 4, 5, 6, 7 losses, and then it goes into a big trend, and then doesn't only recoup those losses, but it also makes like a couple of % profit on top. And that's basically how these systems work, and this is why you have to give them the time, because the markets don't just provide you opportunity every time you want to go in as a manual trader, and certainly don't as a bots. They over the course of 5, 6, 7 months, 8 months, 10 months, whatever it be, the markets will give you those opportunities, but there's not a set time and way you can know when those opportunities will come, but you know they're going to, because you have an edge. The key things, like Stu said a few times in the community, is having an edge on anything. And you have to, the only way to have an edge in the markets is ultimately, obviously, firstly a strategy, but then it's risk management. And if you're risking less than what you're winning, then at some point in time, you are going to end up profiting, and then the profits will compound because you end up winning more than you lose all the time. And that's what these do. The only difference with the one that's in a bit of a loss trade is it's very active compared to the others. So it might go through a bit of a rough period, then suddenly 2 trades within a month absolutely destroy the losses. So I said, that one could come in tomorrow and just, Saturday tomorrow, but it could come in on Monday and do a 6% trade and then knocked out like 3 weeks of losses. So you just have to, unfortunately, give it time. But bear in mind the fact that that's what this system's doing. It's not going to go for the rest of the year, pounding losses after losses after losses without these big gains coming into play. It's not the way the bot's going to work. So it'll go through these periods of bad times, but then over time, those winners will start to increase and will start to pull you out. It'd be nice when we're just in positive equity and the negative runs are just eaten into the equity. As I said before, the unfortunate thing is, again, you can never time this. We couldn't have gone, we just had a winning run, let's not deploy the LMS, let's wait for a losing run, then deploy it. You can't really work like that. The 2 weeks previous to deploying it had a 15% 2 weeks. If we had a 15% 2 weeks from Monday next week, we're back into positive equity again.
Right. One thing I think you touched on there is that in the down times, one thing you hear in investing all the time is, and I know like from days playing poker or any of that kind of stuff, is it's more about not losing money than it is the win sometimes. And I hear that question, all the boss doing is losing, but yeah, it's been at a loss, I guess, if you want to call it that, but it's never went over 10-12% down. So over the course of 2 months, if that's pretty good position to still be at if you haven't hit your streak yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not hit a massive streak at all. The big August was 23% plus month, and I stated that like amazing stuff. You have months which are like crazy, and then suddenly you forget all about the down month, the down weeks, whatever. But it's having that edge in the market where over time you will get there. So, it's just one of those. If we've not deployed the scalper bot, then we wouldn't be making the percentages that we're going to make over the next 12 months. But
right.
But if we did, we'd currently be a little bit up, and it'd be nice and steady. So maybe everyone's heart rates would be better. So it's what you want to take from it. But that's the way.
Well, to me, sorry. I was just saying, to me, that's encouraging to not be down. To not be on a streak, because it shows that just shows that whenever we hit a big run, that you don't have,
Yeah, and the other thing is like the other two are actually on performance level as in terms of strike rate. So they're actually doing their average now, which means they'll continue to start propping gains. Whereas the one that's been giving us a bit of drawdown is currently below its average strike rate, which obviously insinuates that a good run is obviously on the cards over the next few weeks and months. So over, as I said, over the 12-month period, the strike rates are what they are, and we're probably 50% away from being the strike rate average of the smaller time frame one. So what's coming over the next few months is it will start to get it up to its natural strike rate in time. And then obviously the balances and the percentages all follow with that.
Okay, so I think we've already answered this, but so that's, we're sticking to the strategy, right? There's not going to be any change there. That's, it is where it's set, right?
I think an important point to make is what is the end goal of what you're trying to do? And the end goal here is for the LMS funds to be increased for the sustainability of the long term of the project. The worst thing anyone can ever do when you trade is be under pressure to need to make money at short notice. And we're not being complacent, but the LMS is not under pressure at present. We've shown that earlier and we've demonstrated it. So we've got the ability to generate funds for longevity of the project. That is the whole point of what's being done with the LMS and this trading bar. Is not to try and make a fast buck. It's about long-term sustainability and the objective. So yeah, we've got confidence in the strategy and we'll stick to it for that very reason.
One of the key things with trading over the years you find as a manual trader is that what happens with people is they go around the houses with strategies, and you'll meet a lot of people in trading that they may have actually gotten to a strategy that maybe gives them, say, a 60-70% win rate, and then they go through a bit of a bad time for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they change and they go, right, I need to find another strategy. And what they end up doing is they go around the houses, and you could meet that same person 2-3 years later, and you go, how's your trading going? Oh, I've done this, that, and the other, and their chart looks completely different. They're using implications or they're using a naked chart, whatever they're doing. There's certain courses out there that are teaching genuine ways to trade, which manually I do 4 hour daily. But and it might be that they find out a bit about imbalances or harmonic structures or whatever it is, Elliott wave, and there's always something else that kind of seeds their interest, and then they go, oh, I'll start messing with that. Whereas the one thing to never do with trading is to find your edge first and foremost. The most important thing after you've found a slight edge with a system that works is to then get your risk management in place, because then you've got the financial edge on the market. That's principally all anybody as a trader needs to ever achieve, because then you've got to put the time in and the months in to be able to realize your edge and not be constantly changing. So when times are bad, if you start going through a little bit of a bad patch and then you change strategy, then you go into a strategy that starts off in a bad patch, you're even worse off. Whereas you look back, the strategy you're in was actually starting to pull back again. You can see where we're coming from.
Yeah, I think you just explained why I don't trade very often, any single asset. Right. I think that probably. I mean, we definitely got, I think, pretty much everything covered. Steve, I just saw you stepped in here. Are you able to talk for a sec? I have one question for you, if you're able. I can go ahead and take that one on. So the one I kind of forgot about to ask was the gas prices. I think on the current setup, and it's newer contracts, and as we've shown before, and that's one of the reasons that we took the time to work on it before we go immutable, is that we've always been able to optimize the gas fees as we have time with the new system. So I'm sure that he's working on that situation as well before we get to that point.
Yeah, we're always looking to optimize and do the best. In fairness, Stu's put a very good link in for a different RPC, which is proving very, very cost effective. I mean, everyone's been sampling it, and it's been reducing gas fees just considerably.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, obviously that's an outside factor. That's not a Furio factor, but that certainly helps. But we're always looking to optimize fees. Obviously, whenever you've got multiple things happening on one transaction, it's going to bump the gas up. But yes, Steve's always looking to, and we're doing that as part of the final immutability challenge, is to make sure it's left with gas optimized best possible.
Right, and historically, I mean, that's been his, he's been able to do that every time so far that we've added anything in that was higher gas. So I'm sure we'll have it down to, to the level it can be at anyway.
Yeah, it will be optimized to best effect.
Okay, well, I think we've touched pretty much on every question. I mean, I've got multiples, but I think we've hit the whole thing. Do you guys have anything else we want to leave with? What's Fur Finance all about? What are we thinking? Are we how far out are we on maybe like a white paper or something along those lines?
Joe, what? Go on.
No, I was going to say, yeah, we obviously just let the dust settle a little bit. We don't want to go applying the white paper out whilst all this was going on. So we'll get the white paper out next week for everyone to divulge into. We'll be deploying the website, which is basically the white paper, just in a website fashion, I guess. So everyone could go into there. They can have a look at the metrics of what it is. It's an exciting protocol, as we said before. You've got stablecoin investments. What you actually receive for your stablecoin investment will be a higher APR inflation rate at the beginning, which will come down to a very low inflation rate as time goes by. And the point being, the tokens that you earn from that are able to be staked themselves in order to earn platform fees that are generated by the protocol itself, which also includes BNB payments as well. So it's a really cool little system. I anticipate potential for a very high TVL with it because of it being stables. You've got no impermanent loss with the stables. So, and then you've got the blue chip exposure as well, Bitcoin, BNB, and Ethereum. In addition to that, you've then got loan options and collateral stablecoin options as well. So it's a really cool protocol. It's something that we wanted to this kind of system out in a bear market because of the obvious benefits to stablecoin investments in a bear market. But then carrying that through into whenever a bull market were to happen, it gives us the building block starting point to build an even larger protocol out from there. So yeah, we'll get the white paper out next week. And then we'll be talking about pre-sale dates and giving some visuals of how everything looks as well in the coming weeks.
Cool. Yeah, and if anybody wants to has anything they want to talk about on that or look into, I've been watching very closely on everything that's going on with Fur Finance and some of the the protocols that we are looking at in the past, taking results from to build this out. And one of them I mentioned before, and this kind of goes. I just want to mention this because of all the stuff with the exchanges and everything right now. One protocol that I've mentioned for people to take a look at it is the liquidity protocol over on ETH, and it's a lending protocol like what Chris has been talking about. That is a collateralized stable coin, and it is completely autonomous and holds that that stable coin price by way of liquidating the loans and whatnot, which we'll get into a lot deeper later on. But they have a $450 million TVL right now with nobody at the helm in the middle of this market. So obviously it's a beneficial option to be able to offer. It's nothing like the type of lending that FTX or anybody else is doing on a centralized exchange. It's actually backed by the tokens, and it can't on its own. It cannot. It won't allow the token to lose peg. The system it just doesn't allow that. It would shut down before it would ever lose its value.
Yeah, it's a really good. It's a really cool part of the ecosystem. We're really excited to get launched. As I said, it's very pertinent for the current market conditions for people to be able to have somewhere that they can stick stables. We've got the extra layers of the collateralization and the loan options and everything else as well. So if people want to take a bit more risk, they have the opportunity to do so. but again, it'll be generated. It's one of those really nice systems where generated fees and stuff, people can get access to those by basically being shareholders of the initial inflations. The idea basically is you get into the protocol and try and get as much of the revenue share token as you can to stake that to then earn revenue going forward for the rest of the lifespan of the protocol, which theoretically should be for a very long time, if not infinity, if we can get it right. So it really does reward earlier adopters. They say that the token that's being rewarded will go into a very low inflationary phase. We've also got other things that we want to do as soon as we get to that stage. Yeah, it's an exciting prospect for everybody in the space, and say, especially in a bear market condition, it's a really nice place to be able to invest.
Well, let me ask you your thought on one more thing, and we can end with that. So now that we're going to make the contract immutable, that doesn't mean anything's going to that it's not going to be supported, or that we're going to stop work on the ecosystem, or that these other things aren't going to pay back in, right? I mean, you're still just completing the original goal here, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Like we always said at the beginning, we wanted to get the ROI. We had to steer the ship through, well, the worst time DeFi's ever seen. DeFi wasn't around last time. These are the worst days DeFi's ever seen, and steering a ship through these times is not it's not easy, but like we said many times, the decisions that we've made, we're here still and moving forward with everything like we said we would do, because of the fact that we do care about everybody. Whether people feel that at the time of promotion or not, I don't. We can only do what we feel is the right thing, which is sustainability, and that the whole point of your ROI DAP is to steer it into a sustainable state. We've had to take more drastic measures than we anticipated, obviously, but now going into the stage where the ROI DAP becomes into a mutable stage, we're in what we feel like is the best. Apologies, there's ambulances and all sorts going on past that side. One sec. Okay. I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, so basically getting the ROI DAP into what we feel is the key components are we've put it into before going into the mutable stage, we've put it into what we feel is the most sustainable thing to be able to protect every level of investor in the protocol. We then go immutable. People can't obviously question that there's going to be any changes going forward, because there's not. It's immutable at that stage. We've left it in a state where it's got plenty of reserves to be able to last for the next few, the bull run could kick off in August, could kick off December, we don't know. And obviously a bull run is going to help this ROI. There's no two bones about it. But we've also tried to create, and are creating a side chain where we can start to create more revenue from the bot, but also we've got Furio Finance launching. So to answer your question, we're looking for sustainable measures to support the ROI DAP at all times. But we've also put it into a state which makes that be able to happen, because it gives us time. And also at the same time, like Chris said before, no one's got realized losses by doing this. They're unrealized losses at this point. But the ROI DAP has the compounding ability to be able to make people to be able to get themselves back in check. Whilst this is all this time going on, the new revenue streams of the bot and everything else coming into play as well, which are not necessarily needed by next week now, means that the time for this all to happen, and everything's been moving at such pace because the bearish conditions have been so bad and getting worse and worse. We've had, we mentioned the backdrop, and people say that can't blame the backdrop. The backdrop really is affecting things. TVLs are draining; they're not going up. So the more we can give time to everything to be able to get to the next stages, gets us closer to that potential bull run where there's going to be TVL coming back in again to the protocols in general. That's the whole point of the whole exercise. But by doing those drastic changes, there was no need for us to not go immutable at the same time, because we've actually got to the end goal of where we wanted, which was an ultimate sustainability. We can't make the ROI DAP any more sustainable than the metrics we've got in place now. We can only start to harvest more TVL for supporting the whole ecosystem, which is what we're in the process of doing now by moving to Furio Finance and allowing the bot to just have its time to be able to start generating yield. So hopefully that's where, that shows people where we're at with everything. But the other key metric, of course, as well, as you said before, the ROI DAP's left in the hands of the investors in a state where it can generate some more LMS funds temporarily on the ceiling, but then ultimately can go into price discovery if that's what they want.
So it's like a range, and well, obviously it's a range, but there's a range within that range on what token like the LMS is collecting. So when it's in the upper part of the range or upper half of the range, it still allows it to gather USDC to have, then if it would hit the bottom again, right? So that's the reason for having that range in there, is that it can still gather funds to sustain a bottom. So if we would create a higher price and a higher bottom, then that same system just keeps working over and over again, right?
Yeah, and then say, as you said before, as the if the communities, or say for example, Bull Run came around in September and the whole thing's been sustaining itself nicely. Everyone knows that the LMS has been funded in portions at times to continue to support that floor, and then suddenly everyone goes, you know what, it's time to really get this thing going, and there's loads more exposure to the ROI DAP, and then Furio gets larger injections of cash, and suddenly it pierces that ceiling, and the Furio runs out. It's then off to the races and whatever it wants to do, what the community wanted to do. But in the whole process of that happening, people claiming they're supporting the protocol continuously with the LP provisioning.
Awesome.
And of course, at the same time, this whole time, I think some people have seen this as a tax going into fuel pool, but it's not. It's actually generating a secondary income stream.
Right. Yeah, the money's not gone. It's there. I mean, there's measures. There's so many strategies out there, and it's really not. It really shouldn't be our place, honestly, to tell you the strategies too deeply, because that's just kind of a thing that should be up to the investor to do. And if you guys listen around, I mean, there's plenty of strategies on wallets and fur pools, and there's a lot of gamification now and more to come. I guarantee that. So just listen, keep your ears open and eyes open, and look at what people are doing before immediately thinking the worst. There's a lot of smart people out there that are thinking on how to best play different situations. So just don't give up. I think we covered everything, guys. So if you don't have anything else, or you got anything to end with, Mr. Gordon?
No, as I said, if the dust settles, people look in the cold light of day. I mean, I saw Clayton, one of the fast leaders, he put a comment posted in the group earlier. I assume it was a forward from one of his community who'd just been in fuel pool for 2 days and was just like, oh my God, this thing's amazing. And it really is a time to just do some realization, rationalize it, look objectively. And I think if people take a step back, they'll realize that what we're sending into an immutable state is one hell of a good proposition. It really is. It will sustain when the tide turns and people, start to really get their head around it. We're very excited about what we're leaving the community behind for them to manage. And we'll be always keeping a close eye on it. But like I say, we're really excited by it. And we'll also stand by original traditions of we believe in DeFi. We're here. We're in front of the community. We're not hiding who we are. We've taken a lot of flack over the last few weeks. The fact that a lot of other people outside are so obsessed with Furio must say quite a bit about us, because we're certainly not obsessed about anybody else. And like I say, we stand for the good of DeFi, and we wish everyone well, because that's going to make it easier for everyone.
Absolutely. There's got to be there's not a lot of people, not as many people in crypto right now, not as many projects, and the better we can do to lift everybody up is going to just make it that much better. When the market returns, because we want places to be around for people to invest in when everybody comes back. Why not? I mean,
it needs credibility. People should not be having to wonder whether the project's going to be a road, whether it's going to be an exploit. And that will help people take a more balanced investment view, and that was always one of our objectives. for people to actually look at something and say, yeah, I can budget for this being around in 6, 9, 12, 18 months' time, and I can take an investment decision based around those criteria and not, oh shit, I need to make my money back in 2 days because it might not be here at the end of the month. And for DeFi to the future, people need lots of projects like that in front of them to choose from, where they can pick a risk strategy that fits what they want, but they can also take a comfort factor that someone's going to be about for them.
You're right. I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go on, sorry.
I was just saying that's a calming effect. The immutability portion of it, because I've had several people come to me and say, well, I might not agree with the changes, I might not understand it yet, I might be really pissed off at you guys, but I can figure the runway now, or at least get some idea to know that, with all the USDC that's locked up, or US dollars, I guess in general, that's locked up, that, even worst case scenario, I can still get through, my strategy, ROI, whatever it is that, that I'm wanting to do, because the plan's laid out and now I can see it. And I know it's not going to change. I know the price isn't going to change again unless it changes naturally or, something like that. And I think it's given them some, some solace that they can at least, work on it now.
Yeah. Finally, just thank everyone for their ongoing support. It's appreciated. Thanks to you guys, the admins and that, you do a fantastic job, particularly through a challenging period. So, everyone's support is appreciated, and we're still here. We still believe and love the project, and looking forward to the months ahead.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys, what did you think? Let me get my screen back up and everything, and we can talk through this. So for me, I just made a bunch of notes, and they're super random, so I'm not going to be able to chat about this in any order. But overall, the AMA was okay. I guess some questions got answered, so that's good. I think there's a lot of questions that really didn't get answered that I would have liked answers to. I also would have liked it if they would have switched up the way they did it a little bit, probably just come on camera. It seemed a little bit like a funeral. Didn't really feel like it got a lot of people motivated. I think everyone probably feels a little bit better, but I don't know that everyone feels super pumped. And, I'm certainly not in a position right now where I would go tell any newcomer to come in right now. That I don't think we're at that point yet. But I think we could be. I think the biggest key factor to making this project in any way sustainable is to stop making changes. And the most important way to do that one, of course, is to make it immutable. So if we make this thing immutable, people can go, okay, for better or worse, this thing's either going to thrive because now people can trust the system, or it's going to die because everyone's going to drain. So it is what it is. So I think there were some good positive things from that, but I wish we would have seen them on camera, been a little more, peppy about it, and asked some of these deeper questions that I think are frustrating people. One of the questions that Sean kept bringing up, obviously, is like these one or more wallets that have been selling beyond the maximum limit. Like, that's a frustration. If that is like the dev team, some of the team members who were getting paid in Furio tokens or whatever, and they were allowed to sell. I mean, just knowing that outright would be good. They didn't ask a question about the time lock period. So since I had a previous time lock period in Furopool, mine was set at 90 days. So every time I claim now, my Furopool is locked for 90 days and not 30. So I know questions were asked and submitted about that. It would be nice to only be locked for 30 and not 90. Of course, I'd probably get a larger bonus for being locked for 90 days. But in DeFi, 90 days is an eternity, especially right now where everything's so rocky. We're in a bear market. So that didn't get asked. Also, we haven't really defined when the contract was going to go immutable. It would have been nice to hear that, like, hey, the plan is for next week or 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever it is, by the end of December. Whatever the answer is, they're sorting everything else out to get it ready to go. I do know they have a bunch of issues, like in the Fast Teams chat. So all the team leaders are voting on trying to figure out what to do. I'm trying to see if, since the contract automatically puts this money aside to give to the fast team leaders so we can airdrop it down to our teams. That's sort of in place, but they actually do that. They do that process manually. Once they've got the bucket there, they run everybody's numbers to, see how many team members you have on each team or whatever, and then they deploy those down. So I know we gotta vote on that, but we're trying to still make that a thing. If there's still money going into a pool and you've got fast team, leaders, then hopefully you can get a bunch of tokens for those guys and drop them down to the team so everyone can thrive. And I would like there to be a tool to where you can set whether people are positive or negative status. So if you're in positive or even neutral status and you're still getting at least 1% per day, which means you're, half and half on your withdrawals and your deposits, then you'd be eligible for the big airdrop. If you're below that, it means you're kind of claiming out and you've, given up on the system, or you've reached max payout and it's time to pull. And at that point, you don't really need a few extra tokens because they're just going to go to waste. So I was hoping that that would be possible, because that would be nice. I know a lot of you guys, and on my second wallet, my smaller wallet has maybe 250 tokens. So it's in the negative right now. But I know with that one, if there's nothing I can do with it. Claiming doesn't really make any sense because I don't make enough per day to offset the gas fees and really be worth my time at all. So I'm just continually compounding that one. So I'm just, setting that one up on the auto compounder, and we'll see where it goes. So I know a lot of you guys are in that same position to where if you have smaller balances, it's like there's no point in pulling. I either need to give up on this money if I don't think the project is going to go anywhere, or I need to keep compounding and hope they figure it out. So I think that's important. Let's see what else we have. I would have liked to have seen more accountability on the dev team side, just kind of not necessarily. I mean, I don't necessarily think that the changes they made were 100% wrong. I mean, if we were going to run out of liquidity in 30 days and they're looking at the long picture, like either 80% of people lose money in 30 days or, people take an immediate drawdown, but we can see the future that we can make it sustainable enough to where everyone at least makes money. You might not make 250K on a wallet, but you might make 50, 60K on a wallet, depending on how you use your pool. Potentially you could make more. So in the scheme of things, they may just be looking at that balance, and I don't know all the details, and neither does anybody in here. So, I think maybe, a lot of the decisions that were made were best in the long run if they can get it sustainable, not if this thing's going to burn out and we're done in 60 days anyway, which I don't think is the case. I mean, he did say that they bought time by changing the LMS price to buy us enough time to get deep into next year at some point. So if that's the case, that's good. Basically, they just lowered the price. Of course, since there's that much liquidity, instead of a token being worth $5, it's now worth $1. So you now have 5 times longer, of course, than you would have originally. I think it caused a lot of people to just withdraw, thinking the project's over. So you got to find a way to build enough trust back to see if you can keep the project going. But anyway, if they bought enough time to get deep into next year, that'll help them develop some of these other things they need to get going. And I think immutability, is the biggest part. Once they lock it, we'll know no future changes are going to be made. And then you can just figure out, hey, do you want to keep compounding or you want to keep claiming? And it'll be just like drip, for better or worse. Maybe the price goes up, price goes down, whatever. The other thing that they didn't ask that I wanted to ask was, and I presented this on my last, stream or recording that I did that was specifically about all the changes and the frustrations with Furio at that moment, is the dev fees. So the dev fees right now, of course, they're still collecting some dev fees. I would like, until this thing, at least until a point to where we get immutable, maybe they forfeit those dev fees and those go back into the system to help pad liquidity or whatever. Like, people are kind of getting wrecked here. And I know that it's not all completely their fault. I mean, they're right when they're saying DeFi has never seen a bear market. DeFi hasn't been around long enough to see a bear market. And this bear market is particularly bad because you're seeing, huge downturn in from a macro element, but then you're also seeing full exchanges go under. And I don't think, I think crypto.com may be in trouble. There's others out there that are going to fall before this is all over. So that makes it even worse. And that turns sentiment against crypto even worse. And so, they've got an uphill battle here. I mean, you're watching the prices dip in basically everything. You've watched the drip price go down. You've seen almost every other project has either completely tanked or is sort of on life support right now, as far as like a price metric. Only the ones that are truly immutable have like enough trust there that, the community can rally it back up. So that's just something we need to be aware of. It's not like everything's just going to work out rosy in a bear market. And clearly these dudes miscalculated some things, or how difficult the bear market was going to be, because if they had run the better stuff through their financial models, we'd maybe have reset that LMS price originally down to $3 or something to give us more time. And then, I don't know, it would have been nicer if we could have gone into an immutable state sooner, and then that way the trust was there. Because we were rallying, you guys saw, once we set the LMS, we were rallying about $5.50 or whatever it is, and it stayed within that range. And the reason is because every time it would bump against the top, it would sell a little bit, but there was enough buying pressure to keep it like right at 550 within a few cents. Then immediately when the DDoS attack started and rumors started spreading, and then everything else was going wrong at the same time, you drop from the top of the range, which means more people were buying and it was just butting up against the top, all the way down to the bottom. Tons of people started claiming, and then it put all this pressure on the system. So at that rate, we were done in 30 days, and everyone loses money unless you saw the writing on the wall and tried to pull enough until then. I don't know if that's a good solution. There's obviously other things going on in the background that we'd like to have answers to, but just in a nutshell, that's it. So, kill it in 30 days and let everything run out and let it die, or try to elongate this and see if we could make some money. So in the end, I would have moved the pieces around the chessboard differently, but of course I have the benefit of hindsight 2020. So we'll see, man. We'll see. They didn't answer about the gas prices too much. They said they're going to work on that, but what's his face wasn't on the call. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's a more complex transaction now, because part of it goes to Furio, part of it goes to your wallet or all that. But it's like $3 almost, $2.75, $3. Mine's been jumping around a little bit. So it's expensive to claim. So again, if you have a small wallet, it doesn't even make sense. You got to either build it up to where you can get to a point where you can claim, or you just got to throw in the towel. If you have a larger wallet, like my main wallet, I've been building this one up for almost the full 6 months since the project launched, and it's at least I can claim and make it worthwhile or whatever. But I'm still trying to keep this one in a positive range, because I do think, especially after this stuff, like I do think I'll feel a lot better once it gets immutable. But once the project is actually immutable, or the main contract for the Furbot, the daily ROI protocol portion of it, I'm going to feel a ton better about it, and, figure out how I want to claim there, and we can start to do a little bit more math. So we'll see how that goes. The last question that was just on my mind, I'm sure there's a bunch of others, maybe you guys can drop some in the chat that didn't get answered, but is the Furio rates. Right now, they're really attractive, right? You're going to make a lot more money in Furio having your money sit there than you would pulling it out and leaving it there, right? So you're going to double up your money, because the rates on Furio are pretty good. Let's see what we got. Rates on Furio are 156% all time, 171 for the last 14-day average. Now, my question is, okay, now you're basically forcing all these people over into Furio. Is that going to saturate that pool and just kill that APR? So at what point are we going to see that? Is it just slowly going to go down? Like, I don't know enough about the metrics and the ratios to know if, like, in 1 month it's half of what it is, or if it's going to take 6 months to bring it down to that level. But I mean, my eyes, anything over 100% is amazing. I mean, really, frankly, for a stable coin like this, anything over 40% is pretty phenomenal. So we'll see what happens there. if you guys want, you can start to throw a few questions in the chat. I think you're going back and forth and throwing a few things out. Furbot, have they said anything about Furbot, Jeremy? They have recently. They're still working on it. They still think it can get done, but I don't know if it's the number one top priority. They do have some regulatory issues. And I saw somewhere else people were like, oh, they didn't even think to look into that. Like they looked into it. It's complex. Like trying to run an online casino isn't easy. And depending on what areas of the world you're in, it can be even a little more complicated. So I think that's coming. I think their main things right now are Fear Pool. And then, of course, they got to get the bot profitable, which will happen over time. Like, I know people who run bots and people are, oh, trading bots are a scam. They're not a scam. You're back testing your data. Normally when you're trading in the markets, you're watching the chart and you're making these calls based on a set of profitable traders, based on a set of rules that you set out. Like, hey, if it's below this or that on the RSI or the moving averages or whatever, that's your trigger to look at the trade. Then once that goes to a certain point, you get in and then you set your stop losses. All you're doing is programming the bot to do that. So it's going to have some winning times and some losing times. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I've seen profitable traders that have a 70% loss rate, but they're close stops. So when the trade goes against them, they get stopped out real quick. And then, they let their winners run and it offsets everything. So definitely workable. I don't know anyone running a trading bot that's over a 6-figure trading bot. I do have a friend that runs a 6-figure trading bot well, and he also day trades at the same time. So he's got the bots running on certain charts and certain tickers, and then he trades primarily S&P 500 futures, and he just murders it. I mean, he's super, super intelligent. So they're definitely profitable. That doesn't mean anything. Like you got to take it over like a full 12-month period, or even just a few month period. Like, I don't know what the drawdown they have. I think it's like 2 -6% months or whatever. So it seems like a lot of money because the pool's, whatever it is, 2 million or something. But overall, I think it'll come back around. So that's the least of my concerns. And I also don't think the project failed because of the bots. Like it didn't fail because of the bots. It came because basically we had a bank run. People lost confidence in the DeFi market and the system. Website went down, all that type of stuff. And then all the additional selling pressure that happened with all the FTX stuff. So quite a bit of stuff. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, the AMA was decent. It was needed. We got some questions answered. I think some people feel a little bit better. I think it could have been orchestrated a little bit better. A couple more of these questions could have got checked off and made people feel even more comfortable. In the end, you just got to figure out what you're going to do. You got the two choices, right? You're either going to compound or you're going to claim. Like that's it. All the back and forth where people are getting super frustrated. Like I get it, but I can't answer those questions for you. And so you got to talk straight to the devs and see if you can get the answers or whatever. And if you can't get them and you feel like without those, you can't move on with the project, then you sell. I mean, you just got to deal with everything the way in reality, the way it works. Nothing's fair in this world and less is fair in DeFi. Let's see. No longer capped return on your wallet because of Furio Pool. So that's good. But of course that means we've got to get to that point. So there's a long way to go for most people to hit a maxed out wallet and then feel like they can actually claim, because once you get to that maxed out wallet, you still have, the project still has to be around long enough and be thriving long enough for you to be able to actually recoup your investment. So, that's kind of a moot point until we get to that time. I am excited for the long term though. At this point, I'm pot committed, so I'm staying in the project. I am going to claim a little bit here. Some's going to go over into my Furio Pool, which I'll let sit. Obviously, I'm locked up for 90 days all the time, and then I'm going to keep compounding my second account. So we'll see what happens. I'll feel way more confident though. Like I'm not really giving a ton of guidance yet to my friends and family who got in this. And my dad called me last night. He's got a pretty good amount in it, and just asked me what exactly he should do. I said, hey, let me listen to this AMA and try to get some details, and let's talk tomorrow. I'm trying to make sure everyone makes the best decision for them. But I think once everything goes immutable, then we're really going to have the answers we need pretty quickly on whether we think this thing has longevity. Does anybody do enough people like it to where, you know, new users are getting onboarded at any rate? Just even some would help. And then are people compounding? Are they claiming? And then is the team, now that that part's locked up, are they hyper focusing on adding additional utility? Because that's the key here. No ROI protocol can survive without additional utility, other ways to use that token. I just don't think it's possible. I think the only thing, the ROI protocols won't do it. Like a casino can survive by itself because it has its own income source. Like a farm like this, where you're just, farming LP tokens to earn USDC, that can survive. Trading bot, if it's profitable, can survive on its own. But the protocols, the money's got to come from somewhere. So you can set it up and you can earn a daily ROI for a while, but eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have to create additional utility to help feed some additional funds. So is what it is. The other thing that I thought was super interesting, and I like this a lot, I've been saying they should just ditch the LMS system. So once they make it immutable, the LMS system, it sort of goes away. It's actually kind of nice that it's there. So basically right now, when you've got an LMS system, you have a pool of USDC sitting at the bottom, and you have a pool of tokens sitting at the top. So there's a limited amount of tokens and there's a limited amount of USDC that's in there. So the price is sitting in the middle right now. Let's say everyone starts buying and everyone is buying it up. What's going to happen is the pool is going to continue to sell those tokens at the top, those fear tokens, until there isn't anymore. So it's going to keep butting up against that price range until that pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Once it's done, then the price can go to $1 million if it wants to, theoretically, right? So at that point, it's gone. If the price were to go up and then, say $2 and then come crashing back down, it wouldn't crash through the floor because at 90 cents, there's a pool of USDC. So it would continue to bounce against the bottom until it chewed up that USDC, and then it could go lower. So there will still be, it's kind of nice that there's a buffer on the bottom for sure, not so much on the top, but it's there for it to bump into, and then eventually it will find its own price range. So what's going to happen? Either the price range is going to go up because people think about the system and it's working well, or the price ranges go down and the project eventually fails. But like they said, we bought a bunch of time to where we can get deep into next year, and hopefully they can change the sentiment. So, oh man, Andrew Stockton, bots are scam. You have no idea what you're talking about. There was no attack. You're a child. Let's see what else we got. What other questions we have? People don't have, it really is your decision. Exactly. You got to make an ultimate decision on what you think you want to do. So if you compounded to max, when it comes time to claim, are they still tied to a percentage going to a pool? I don't know the answer to that. I think the answer probably is yes. But I don't know, because if the contract's immutable, it's going to do the same thing every time. But I don't know if at the point where you've maxed out your wallet and you can't compound anymore, if it would trigger your ability to just pull or whatever. I would prefer that it be that way. But it looks like, maybe Fracken knows, looks like he's maybe saying that that it is still going to go into that. So once you've fully claimed out, you're always going to have this big pool of USDC sitting there, which really drags out your time to max. So I'm not sure if I love that. I'd love to see that get changed. What else we got? Good to know, Fracking. Thank you. Let me see what else I got in my notes. It's hard to read through this chat. It's scrolling pretty quick here. I mean, the important thing to note here is the project didn't rug. So, where a lot of other projects in the recent past, even in the last few weeks, have just completely rugged, or when they fell apart, right? showed some issues and tried to scramble around and do a few things, and then eventually they just rugged. Liquidity's gone. So that's at least one positive. I know it's not a shining star, but it's something. And the fact that the devs are still here trying to do something. But yeah, everyone, I don't think the devs are dishonest. I think all this could have gone quite a bit better, but I don't think they're over there trying to find ways to plot and make more money. So I think everyone who's kind of saying that's just jaded. And I don't get, they did say they did make reference to like other projects, hating on them and vice versa. That's happening a lot in DeFi, which again, I don't understand. I think people who feel like that are children, and they also don't understand the big picture. You constantly hating on another project and wanting to bring them down when they fall, it's worse for DeFi. It's better for DeFi if more projects survive, because we're a small group of people. I know we think we're a lot of people, but there's like 1 million people in DeFi. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of people out there that are potential investors. So if they're coming and watching some videos on DeFi and it's all this drama back and forth about projects and hating each other, I think that's a good way to turn people off completely from DeFi in the future. So that's bad. And secondly, people start looking into projects and realize all these projects are failing. They're not going, oh, which project's surviving though? I want to get into this one because it's doing well. A lot of people are going, whoa, everything's failing. They're not looking at the one that's probably going to make it, So it's worse for DeFi and worse for investors if more projects fail. We really want a good 10 projects that are really killing it, that people can pick and choose from, and then it'll be up to the developer to make theirs the best. And so people want to, gravitate toward it, whether it's the longest lasting or it has the highest yields or whatever the incentive is. Maybe that, the quickest growth rate, like Furio has the quickest growth rate with that 2.5%, in my opinion. So DeFi needs to do well. We need more protocols to do well for us to be in a better position in the long term. And we got to just find our way to get to a bull market. Things will get a lot easier once we get to a bull market. So that's all I really had for my notes, guys. I'm cautiously optimistic still. I want to see this thing actually go immutable, so I can feel confident that no more changes are going to be made, and then we could ride it out as a community. We can rally and decide to either can keep investing in the project or take the money out. I mean, that's really your two decisions. So we get a bunch of people involved going, okay, I think this thing has legs, and now that I know that, these things aren't going to get changed, I can start to forecast what could be possible in the future, see if I could actually make good money here, and then move forward. In the US, a $50,000 max wallet, especially where I live, is not a lot of money. But a lot of folks are like, that's life-changing for me. You know what I mean? That's, average salary of my country is $6,000 a year or whatever. So some of these guys, it's going to be super major for them. So we'll see what happens, but we got to get to the point where, this project seems sustainable to at least to the investors that are in it right now. It's like 50-50. A lot of people are like, hey, still devs are still hanging in there. So I think this thing's going to rally at some point. And the other side are saying that, this thing's just going to go to zero at some point. So we'll see. I talked to Chris Davies quite a bit, and, I do trust that he is doing everything he can in the background to make this work. And I really like the guy. So is what it is. So let me do one last little swoop through the comments. And if you guys have any, feel free to throw them in there, and then we'll close it out. Let you guys have the rest of your Friday. Carm, I agree with you, man. Max deposit of 1K first seems to be on the low side. And I agree. I think it's tough. If the price is 90 cents, that's $900. That's not a lot of capital coming into the system to be, to drive the price up. So I agree. I don't know how they're going to resolve that, because the other side of the coin is you let people deposit a ton of money, purchase straight up max wallets, and then they just start draining. And then you never let the smaller people catch up. So I don't know what the answer is there, but I'm sure someone smarter than me can figure out a couple answers, a couple different ways to play it. Because I think that would be super beneficial to be able to actually get more money in here. And maybe I don't know, maybe there's another solution that can be proposed. But yeah, I think you got to be able to do more than that. I agree. Hevel, thank you. Thanks for joining. I figured not too many people would cover this AMA, and I think a lot of people are wondering, what the heck's going to happen here. So I figured I'd at least do a live stream and pull a Lee and see if I could get some coverage. That way everyone had an opportunity to rewatch it later. Because for me, it was 9 o'clock in the morning when this thing started. And, I know a lot of people on Friday are in the middle of work and they want to hear this and they want to get some objective coverage. And so hopefully this live stream can continue to get some eyes on it and people can feel however they want to feel about the project. I'm not going to give financial advice. I'm not going to tell anybody what I think they should or shouldn't do with their money. And I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing. And that is stay in a positive status on my main account, but pull some money so I can try to get to ROI before too long. And then my smaller account just makes sense for me to compound and ride this out. And I'm going to feel a lot more secure once the contract goes immutable. So. Yeah, more than one wallet, but I don't like to have a ton of wallets though. I just I don't want to make it's just gas fees and every different thing. I got to hide BNB and all these different accounts and all that. It's just kind of it's kind of frustrating. So hopefully we can find something in the middle, because even say $2,500, like that would be a little bit better of a cap. And it's a weird math problem. I don't want people to keep draining, but or put in money to drain and game the system. But that's the issue with smart contracts. Like smart contracts are designed, you can't blame investors for playing the game. Like you design a smart contract and there's ways not really around the rules. You're unless you're exploiting, like actually hacking the system and changing and exploiting it, you're working with the contract as it's designed. So if you're leveraging it to drain it or do whatever, as long as you're not botting the system and doing weird stuff, then I mean, that's fair play. That's on the devs to figure out how to design it in a way where people can't work around and game the system and all that. So I think that's just part of something that's difficult, and it's going to work. It's going to work in people's favor, and in some cases, going to work against people. In some cases, it's just smart contracts are interesting, especially immutable smart contracts. You got to put all this stuff together and have it be perfect, and then lock it up. I think Drip got lucky in a lot of respects. The contract's really good. Of course, like the security is top notch. The fact that it had the minting mechanism, so they didn't have to try to go in and make changes. I mean, he did design it almost perfectly, but I don't know that Drip would have lasted if it would have launched during the bear market, because it never had that upswing. It never got people feeling like this thing was really going to crack, So I think that helped a ton. So I think Drip will live on because it's seen some highs and got people pretty pumped about it. I think Furio's in a tougher spot because it's got to find its way out of this hole, and then once it sees the next bear market, it'll be good. So we'll see. Donato, thanks for joining, my friend. I appreciate that. Yeah, Frack, and my issue was the article that was written, where basically the first to lifeboat mentality, all those references, I wish they would have taken more accountability for that and said, hey, I realize that these guys are getting it nonstop and everyone's saying, oh, they're dishonest and just saying the worst things about them. I mean, people are hateful, especially like in the DGen protocol and all this stuff. People were they're hateful. They did the same thing to Forex like not too long ago. When they, were saying he was stealing pigs and all this other stuff. People just go far off into left field and make a bunch of crazy accusations and then talk a bunch of trash. And so these guys are getting it from all ends. So when they're writing the article, they're angry, they're writing it from a place of emotion. I wish they would have gone back and doubled back on that and said, hey, we were just frustrated or whatever. We didn't mean to blame investors. This is how it is. But, people draining the system, of course, is putting us into a bad spot, but is what it is. Yeah, Chris is a nice guy. He just comes across as abrasive once in a while. Elizabeth, yeah, I'd like to have 2 separate stakes. That would be nice to have mine different, to have my 90-day stake that I had going, and then everything new goes into that. I would like that. I have mentioned that before, so I don't know if it's possible based on the way the smart contract works, but I'd like to have one that just funnels everything in that's coming from my claims, and then another one that's just my standard fear pool. Because I know some of these guys were locked up for 120 days. So those guys aren't getting their money back for a long time, especially if they're continuing to compound and claim. It's a lot. So my 90 days doesn't look so bad against 120, but I prefer that all that new money going in there is 30. All right, guys, any more questions or should I wrap it up? Any main things? We're almost at 2 hours. We got some answers. Feel pretty good about it. I'm going to continue to compound, watch for this immutable date, and just see what happens. But I don't think the project is at risk of dying in the next couple months. So let's see what the team can do. If they put their head down and get some of this utility launched and all that, I think we could actually be in a pretty good space. But we need to get trust back. That's the biggest thing I think that they need to do, that I wish they would have done better. It's kind of like, hey, we made the best decisions we could, to make sure the project's around for the next few months. But I wish they would have done a little more to like try to bring people's trust back in, because I think that's the biggest thing, but is what it is. All right, guys, I'm going to kill it. I appreciate all you guys joining. It's nice to hear from the devs. I know they had a couple days trying to sort everything out, but is what it is. Thanks, Hamid. Appreciate all that you do, man. You take a lot of the brunt of the chats and everything and all that. So want to let you guys know that I appreciate everyone joining, and everyone on the teams. DeFi is a risky place. Like, you got to kind of consider your money lost. It's frustrating. I get it. And these are investments, but it's risky. And so it's pretty frustrating. So no matter what project you're in, I hope you guys are all surviving and making money. And in the next bull run, DeFi is going to be crazy. And you guys are all going to be OGs, and everyone's going to be like, oh, you were in DeFi back in, 21, 22. So I think that will happen probably toward the end of next year, and everyone's going to want to know how you got in. You're going to be killing it in all your projects. So it is what it is. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and we got to sort our way through this. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining. Happy investing as always. I hope you have a great weekend, and we can sync up in Telegram if you want. So take care.